future we'll claim our own. In the home of the brave we'll proudly outgrow. With every game, we rise and unite, fueling the passion, igniting the light. Through highs and lows, we'll stand as one. A legacy, a tale that's just begun. Together we roar, together we grow.
That's a big-time play.
With our hearts full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the home of the brave, we'll proudly outgrow. So let's lift our voices, let's turn it up loud. For the love of the Lions, we'll always be proud.
All righty, right. Good morning, everybody. It's the Rise and Grind morning show. All of your Detroit Lions news, rumors, draft takes, hot takes, low takes, cold takes. You name it, it's going to be a wild week. We have draft chaos that started over the weekend. And now we're going to be talking about more draft rumors this morning involving Lions, Bears, Vikings, somewhat of Packers, and then a few other teams that are potentially going to shake up this draft and shake it up early. Now, we've been hearing for a while that this draft was going to be potentially loaded with a lot of trades. And even up until last week, Thursday, Friday, like there was just not a lot happening. You know, around the league, you really didn't hear a lot about any draft rumors as far as trading. That picked up over the weekend, and it really picked up when a few of the GMs that I noted last night had decided to put out how many draftable players they had in this draft, and even some put out how many first-round grades they have in this draft. So with anywhere between 150 to 197 draftable players out of, 1,000 or so players that are eligible for the draft, that's not a lot. We have 267 picks this year. And so if 30% of the players that are draftable through the end of round 7 are not draftable, they don't have draftable grades, now you could expect where there's going to be a lot of movement in this draft early, especially when you're looking at grabbing players that could potentially help your team significantly and significantly to start in year 1 versus year 2, year 3. So I want everyone just to kind of slam that pause button on Brad Holmes for a minute. We've heard the rhetoric. We've heard the lies. We've heard the toxic media takes. We've heard it all. There's a lot of people out there that just don't have a damn clue how football works. They've never run a major organization. They've never been a CEO or they've never been a GM. Hell, they probably haven't even managed a McDonald's. And they think that they know all of this stuff about high-level organizations, about running a multi-billion-dollar organization, organizing a $300+ million salary, right? That you have to manage, 90 players at any given point throughout the season. That's a lot to undertake. And so when you enter a draft that is shaping up to be one of the worst drafts in the last 6 seasons, I don't want the rhetoric to continue to spin that Brad doesn't know what he's doing, that Brad didn't make the right picks, that Brad traded too much or didn't trade enough. Everyone's going to have their opinion. Like, your opinion's fine. There's nothing wrong with an opinion. I think that where we have a problem is when that opinion spins to fire Brad Holmes. I don't know about you, but 4 winning seasons in a row has not been Detroit's culture since 1972. 1972, that was the last year of a run where the Lions had 4 winning seasons in a row. or around 1972. I could have that stat wrong, but I know it's 1972. I was born in 1980. So before I was born, Lions didn't win, right? They didn't win much. And they definitely didn't win the way that they are now. They definitely didn't have a top 5 offense for multiple years in a row. I mean, hell, they even had pretty close to the number 1 defense for a little bit, at least the top 5 defense, until all the injuries happened between 23 and 24. There wasn't a team out there that wanted to face the Lions in the playoffs in 2022. We didn't make it in, so we never tested our mettle, in the playoffs. But here we are. It's 2026. Brad Holmes is now entering his 6th draft as a Detroit Lion, and I think he's done an excellent job. Yeah, he has a couple of misses, and I'll emphasize the word couple. Very few misses here for Brad. And when you look around the league, you can't say that about all the other 31 teams. You really can't. A lot of GMs have wild misses, a lot of misses. And I know I use the Patriots as my crutch quite a bit because, 2 teams that went to the Super Bowl last year, there was no window open for them, this mythical window. And I've started to see that now said everywhere else. The exact phrase that I said to everybody months ago was, you tell me where a story exists at the beginning of September of 2025 that puts the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots at the top of the list to make a Super Bowl. It doesn't exist. Outside of maybe a fanatic, fan that thinks that their team is just going to win every year. There's nobody that was saying that the Patriots or the Seahawks were going to be any good. So there is zero window that exists. And I don't know why people keep referring to it. I know that it's often used by media outlets when they talk about this window. Hell, we just heard Jason Kabinda. I mean, come on, dude. Talking about a window that doesn't exist for the Lions and, not impressed with what the Lions did in the offseason. This dude was a 4th, 5th string fullback. Clearly doesn't have a clue, looking for some hot takes against his old team that decided to say, see ya, buddy, you're not good enough for us. I mean, get real, Kabinda. You suck, dude. Like, flat out. It's not stuff that I'm going to, get all riled up about. I mean, I guess I'm a little riled up, where I'm going to believe into what somebody like Jason Kabinda's, saying. He's on Good Morning Football. He's trying to make an impression for himself, and that's about it. He doesn't have a damn clue. So, anyway, I'll unpause the button now. I'll step off the soapbox because I want to deliver the rumors. I want to deliver the news. I want to talk about, 19 different things that I have on my mind, some things that have kind of pulled down this morning and last night with some teams that could make some hay here in the first round. And it could get wild. And then again, it could be quiet as a church mouse. So we'll see what happens. That's why they call them rumors. And you know me, I don't like to do a lot of rumors without vetting, things. But in this case, these are pretty tough to vet. But there's more to this than just a rumor. Like it makes sense too. What was the greatest meme? I don't know what that one was, K-Biz. You got to share it to me. You got to find it and share it to me. So first, I'm going to start with some fun facts and some quick hitters about this draft because it's shaping up to be quite interesting. But first, I need to do this. I'd like to thank Zyn this morning for sponsoring today's show. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, it is pinned on every show or every video that I do. They are sponsoring everything throughout the draft. But Zyn, man, Certified B Corporation, your body deserves more than hydration, so you might as well add Zyn to your daily. Backed by thousands of years of natural healing properties of turmeric. Combats inflammation throughout your body. It's great tasting stuff. I certainly enjoy it. It's packed with vitamins. You get all this in one pack and more. Turmeric, electrolytes, zinc, vitamin C, vitamin D, And then, of course, it's only 10 calories. So if you're a carb counter or if you're a calorie counter, like this stuff is not going to ruin your day. And then talking about sugar and how bad sugar is for you, only 2 grams of sugar in the packet and 0 grams of sugar in the ready-made drink mix. So get your hands on some Zyn, strawberry yuzu, mango pomegranate, passion fruit lemonade, blackberry dragon fruit. And, of course, it's trusted by athletes all over the world. And just to name a few here from the NFL, Roquan Smith, Eric Armstead. So get your Zyn, man. Wherever you shop, you can find it, or you can click the link. It's pinned right underneath the title of today's show. $17.99 will deliver an 8-pack to your door. And, of course, I do got to let you know that this show would make a very small 10% commission if you do, in fact, add or want to add Zyn to your daily regimen. I would advise it. I love it. I've been drinking it. And I got to tell you, my knees feel a little bit better after about a week now of drinking this stuff every single day. But make sure you consult with your own physicians, family, whoever you trust about your daily health, and make sure that Zyn is right for you.
Pressured by Hutchinson, he goes down again.
All right, fun facts about this draft. Maybe not so fun facts for some teams, but the NFL is definitely speeding up. Heading into the first round here on Thursday night at 8 p.m. The NFL is now shortening the time for NFL teams to make their pick this year. It's been 10 minutes for the longest, and now in the first round, they are reducing it from 10 minutes to 8. You guys may remember that Brad Holmes was kind of the talk of the town when he was putting his picks in under 4 minutes. And Roger Goodell did not like that. He wanted to make sure that the draft lasted a little bit longer, that they were getting their ads out, these super expensive ads they play throughout the draft. And then, of course, all the commentary that happens between the picks. Brad kind of ruined that a little bit. And he did it in back-to-back years. So the NFL's decided to shorten the window now, only giving them 8 minutes, so they've shortened the time by 20%. Next up, we have 4 Ohio State players that are in the top 10 on a lot of boards. You have edge rusher and linebacker Arvell Reese, linebacker Sonny Styles, safety Caleb Downs, and the receiver Carnell Tate. Michigan State in 1967 is the only school in the common draft era to have 4 players selected in the top 10. The most Ohio State players picked in the top 10 is 3 in 2016. Joey Bosa, Ezekiel Elliott, and Eli Apple. So there you go. For all you U of M fans out there, the 2 teams you hate the most have done something better than you. I had to say it. I had to. Why not? All right, next we have the Jets. They have a league high 4 of the top 44 picks. Not to mention 3 first-round selections they have next year. Their own, their Colts, and the better of the Packers and Cowboys selections. If they don't keep Aaron Glenn around for at least 4 seasons, I would be surprised. I would be really surprised. So, with that amount of picks, 4 in the top 44, 3 in the first round, 2 in this year's first round. That is 5 first-round picks in the next 2 drafts. They're going to be an amazing team. I told you all last year it was going to take the Jets 2 seasons to compete, and I'm expecting the Jets to compete this year. I am putting the Jets in the playoffs, and next year they're going to compete for their division. Penn State guard Olavavega Nioni. I know I pronounced his name a little bit wrong. I don't know where they get Vanga from, but whatever. I think he might have said his name is Vanga. I don't remember at the combine what he said, but I always pronounce it wrong. Projected first-round pick in one of 9 siblings, according to his Penn State bio. He has 5 brothers, Joe, Chico, Avi, David, and Tossisi Jr., and 3 sisters, Hannah, Mata, and Lily. What an active family. Active family. Nine siblings. One of 9 siblings. That's a ton. Then you have the Tyson brothers that are about to make some history in this NFL draft. Jordan Tyson's brother, Jalen, was selected number 20 in the 2024 NBA draft by the Cleveland Cavs. And now Jordan is poised to become another Tyson selected in this year's draft and in the first round. So congratulations to the Tyson brothers, man. It's pretty exciting stuff. And then we have Tennessee cornerback Jermod McCoy, who's a projected first-round pick, and I'll talk about that again in here just a second. I don't think so. Could be, but I don't think so. He went to the White House, which is the Texas high school, the same school that produced Patrick Mahomes. So a little interesting parodies here. Next up, I want to talk about some trade rumors, possibilities for the Lions. We got one for the Vikings here, and then all eyes on 2027. And I think that that's where a lot of these draft trades are going to be pointed in this year's draft. I think that a lot of these picks are leaning towards what can we get for 2027. And I'll come back to that in just a moment. But first, let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks and how they could impact the Lions draft this year at pick 32. Now, the Seahawks have a running back situation. I think we all understand, they lost Kenneth Walker, and Charbonnet is coming back from, I believe, an ACL. So they're kind of down on their luck this year, and so their greatest need really is running back. And the Seahawks enter this week's draft with only 4 picks. Doesn't help them a whole lot, but they have pick 32, 64, 96, and 188. And honestly, their 3 picks early in the draft couldn't be more perfectly aligned with where these big divots or crevasses are of no talent in this draft. As reported last night on the late evening show that I did, and also in the video, that there's some major talent dysfunction going on in this draft. Now, the Seahawks could be looking for a trade out of the first round, stockpiling some more selections, again, even into 2027. And this is where I could see a realistic move for the Lions and Brad Holmes. Now, I've speculated for a while now that I'm expecting the Lions to trade back from 17 to 21 or 17 somewhere to stay in front of the Bears. But the Bears may be moving up. And I think that doing so, it would give Brad a little bit more leverage, add a third-round pick, give them some more options early in this draft because you're going to need it. Our late day 3 picks are going to be worthless this year. Those guys are going to barely make a practice squad potentially. We'll see. I don't expect Brad to keep all 7 of them. And so if Brad is looking to move up in this draft, like I said, he could move back initially, but if he's going to move up and really get after it and go get a player that he really likes, he's not doing that at 50. He's going to have to move up from 50. And so moving from 50 to 32, it's been done before. And I think that if he's going to move up, he wants that 5th-year option. And moving from 50 to 32 would cost at least third-round pick, which we don't have, and a 4th-round pick in this draft. That's it. That's all it would really cost. A 3rd and a 4th. And the 4th might even be a little heavy. So I would expect Brad to potentially trade a 4th this year, a 5th this year, and a future 3rd, again, leaning on the 2027 draft cycle. That really doesn't help the Seahawks in their situation where they're going to want another pick, but they could absolutely still get one of the better running backs in this draft at pick 50. And at 32, it's kind of a reach. Unless they really value Jadarian Price, he should be there really close to 50. So I'm expecting that there's some options here for the Lions. And, of course, after losing, like I said, Kenneth Walker in free agency and Zach Charbonnet coming off the ACL, they have very few options in Seattle right now. They have Emmanuel Wilson, George Holani, Kenny McIntosh, and Cam Akers and Velus Jones Jr. Seattle could have its choice of many of this draft's top backs this week, including Jadarian Price. And, again, I think he's going to be available a little bit later than expected. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Seahawks move off the 32nd pick, maybe to a team that wants to draft Simpson, or if the Lions and Brad Holmes really want to get up there and get that player and get that 5th-year control, which they're going to need. They're going to need that 5th-year control because the way that their salary cap is headed right now, grabbing players this year won't really start to affect the salary cap until like year 4. About year 4 when your first round pick is looking to get a new contract. So there's that. Next, the Vikings. Now, they pick at 18th overall. I think the Eagles could be plotting here. They want to do something. And as reported by Ian Rappaport, I'm sorry, was it Ian Rappaport? Hold on. Let me just double check. Might have been Shefty. There's a draft intel report, which we're going through some of that too. Yeah, it was Schefter. So as reported by Adam Schefter, as far as the Vikings' 18th overall pick, that the Eagles could be making more trades beyond any Brown-related move. So league sources say that general manager Howie Roseman is plotting to make a deal on draft weekend, and one possibility is adding a Vikings linebacker, Jonathan Greenard. Now, the Eagles have checked in on this potential over various points of the offseason, and so it's led to nothing so far, but could it lead to something on draft day? I think it could. Now, as again reported, it says, quote, I don't think that the Vikings will want to part with draft capital required to move up from 18 to, say, the Chiefs pick at number 9. But if Downs falls out of the top 10, it might be worth making some calls to see about the price on moving up 5 to 7 spots. Ultimately, I don't think it's particularly likely they go up or land Downs. So the biggest conversation here is that the Vikings are going to be taking a safety. Now, there's 3 top safeties in this draft: Caleb Downs, Emmanuel McNeil Warren, and Dylan Thieneman. Dylan Thieneman is expected to be available after Caleb Downs, and if Caleb Downs does get selected in the top 10, well, then the Vikings have a decision to make. Can they afford to wait till 18? With very few first-round grades available in this draft, and the talent is completely devoid, right around pick 17 and 18, they may be looking to move up even a couple of spots. And so my intel is saying that the Jets are considering moving off of the 16th pick, and whether that's moving up or moving back a little bit in the draft, I think that the Vikings should be able to move up, to potentially get Thieneman at 16. And I think the only possible trade option that really exists for the Vikings to do that is with the Jets. 18 to 16 is going to cost them a 4th-round pick, possibly a 3rd-round pick. And that's equitable. I think that if you're looking to get a player that can help you immediately, it's Dylan Thieneman. Or it could be Emmanuel McNeil Warren. I still value both of those players extremely high in this draft, given their talent and what we've seen them do on the field. I don't think you can underscore the fact that all 3 of those players are going to help a team. I'm a little less high on Caleb Downs simply because of the injury concerns surrounding his knee. And there was some reports about it. Now, some of these reports could just be smoke and mirrors. Some of these reports could just be, a way to push a player down on the draft board. But it was reported that there was some degenerative knee issues there. And same thing for Jamad McCoy. And so I'll transition to him for just a second. It was reported over the weekend, and I think I said it last night, and then also in the video, that Jamad McCoy is rolling off a lot of teams' boards. Maybe I didn't do this video yet. Let me roll back to my notes here. Get out of there. Nope, get out of there. Let me roll back to my notes. I'll have to do the video when I get back from my procedure today, but I don't think I did it. And I don't know where my notes are. Go figure. Okay, anyway. The report was that a lot of teams have taken Jamad McCoy off of their board completely. And so this could mean that he falls out of the first round. It could mean that he falls extremely late into the first round. Now, given the fact that this is a talent-devoid draft, I mean, if there's 13 players that are really good, there's probably another 30 players that are good. And then after that, I mean, you're looking at just a ton of depth. A lot of teams are going to get really good in the depth department. They're going to get really good on special teams. Or maybe to say that again, they're going to get good in depth department and really good on special teams. If you're to put it in a hierarchy here, like grade 1, 2, 3, there's a lot of 2s that could potentially help you in the rotational department. There's a ton of 3s that are going to help you in special teams and players that are going to be really good on special teams. So Jamad McCoy, simply because of the degenerative knee, if teams are paying attention to this, which clearly they are, then you wouldn't want to necessarily take this guy in the first round and commit that kind of money to somebody that potentially could have, a very early career, right? If it gets worse, and that's the thing. Like, you don't know if it's going to get worse. If it's already degenerative this early, how much longer before he starts having significant problems? He's already had significant issues. He's already come back. I think it was an ACL or Achilles, whatever it was, that kept him out for a year. And then he barely was able to do anything. Combine, he didn't do anything. And then at his pro day, he was running 50% speed. And so I think that really turned a lot of teams off on Jamad McCoy. And if Brad Holmes drafts Jamad McCoy, I'm telling you right now, I'm out. Like, it would be at that point that I would have a major bone to pick with Brad Holmes. Do not take Jamad McCoy. I do not care about value unless you're getting him at pick 50, and even then I wouldn't do it. I don't want to see another player, and I'm not saying that he drafts injured players because he doesn't, as much as people like to think he does. The only player that Brad has really drafted was Jamison Williams that had a current injury. Nobody else that he draft really have an injury. And if you're worried about the players that Brad has brought in and saying that he continually drafts injured players, well, they brought in Aiden Hutchinson. He had a major injury history. He had a broken leg in his junior year. So, there's nothing more significant than that, right? Oh, okay, it's just a broken bone. No, that's significant. So if he brought in Aiden Hutchinson and he's worked out, then he breaks another leg. Maybe he shouldn't have done that. Or maybe he should have. The value is there for Jamison Williams, and so far it's worked out. Some things, Hendon Hooker is the other one. I was getting to it. Hendon Hooker is the other one that had an ACL or Achilles. I can't remember which one. So it was going to take him a little bit of time to get rolling too. But Hendon Hooker didn't work out because of injury. He didn't re-injure himself. When he came back, he was fine. He didn't work out because mentally he wasn't able to get it, right? He wasn't able to understand the scheme and then go put it to use on the field. Brad hasn't brought in a player that has been injured that hasn't played because of injury. In free agency, that's a little different. You brought in Mosley, who had a history of injury, and then just bad luck. Snaps the other leg. Snaps the other, I think it was ACL in that leg, or the other knee. So weird things happen, right? But Brad hasn't drafted players with significant amounts of injury coming into the league. If you brought in 2, so what? A lot of teams do. And with today's medical advancements, ACLs and Achilles injuries are not what they used to be. The biggest question is that player going to come back to full health? And is that player going to be able to perform at 100% of what they were doing before? And that's less likely. Levi O was not injured. Levi O was not injured at all. He had some back issues, just like a lot of players have back issues, but he did not come in with a major injury. He got injured in Detroit. Josh Paschal was not injured. Josh Paschal had cancer. He was not injured. So I know that there's a lot of lies out there. There's a lot of misinformation out there, but cancer is not an injury. That's an illness. I have it. I had it, have it again. So it's an illness. It's not an injury. And again, to Robbie's point, Paschal was injured in Detroit. All right, so all eyes on 2027. Now, there might only be one quarterback drafted in this year's first round. That's expected. If some team wants to take a wild swing at Ty Simpson, so be it. I'll talk about that in just a moment. But multiple quarterbacks are expected to be square in the first round in the 2027 draft. Already on the radar for 27 includes Oregon's Dante Moore, Texas, Arch Manning, should be number 1 overall. Texas Tech's Brandon Sorsby, South Carolina, Lenoris Sellers, Ole Miss, Trinidad Chambliss, who almost entered the draft and then went back. Miami's Darren Mensah, Ohio State's Julian Sayin, Notre Dame's CJ Carr, LSU's Sam Levitt, and then UCLA's Nico Lamaleva, or Oklahoma's John Mateer. Not all of those players will be first-round picks, but there are great expectations for many of them, and it provides a glimpse of the potential for 2027. So when I keep saying teams in this draft may be looking to get some future draft capital, that's where I see Brad potentially pivoting and maybe using a little bit of future capital to move up in this draft. Again, if he wants to move from 50 to 32, there could be a team out there that says, I don't want your third because it's going to be a late third. I want your second. And if that's the case, if we have to trade a future second, you could see where Brad trades a future second and a fourth-round pick this year and then gets a fourth-round pick back in 2027. I think that's a likely and viable trade. I think that the numbers work, and I think that would drive the opportunity for Brad Holmes to do something with a major move from 50 to 32, or even 50 to 33 or 34 or 35 or 36, wherever. If he wants to get into the top of the second where there's still going to be some talent, some decent talent, at pick 50, we're jumping off cliffs, right? I mean, as soon as we get real close to 50, everything just slides off the table, and it's going to stay there probably until the mid-60s. So maybe Brad trades back, which I'm sure a lot of fans wouldn't be happy about, especially if he passes on, players like Zion Young if he slips, or Malachi Lawrence. But like I've said, there's players that are off my board completely, and it's one of the names that I just mentioned. Next up, injury concerns in this year's draft. We were just talking about injuries, but injury concerns. Miami offensive tackle Francis Maui-Noah is still expected to be the first offensive lineman selected on Thursday night, despite the fact that new sources have come out and said he has HAS, a herniated disc in his back. I have 4 herniated discs currently. Now, Maui-Noah returned to Indianapolis for another medical recheck 2 weeks before the draft, a couple of weeks, for about a month after the combine. The back injury is not a significant issue right now, but I will tell you, when you have a herniated disc, bulging disc, it can cause problems. That's the question. Is it bulging or is it just herniated? Now, if it's herniated, that means it's weak, and at any point in time, that little jelly donut can explode out into the thecal sac or through the thecal sac and press along your spinal cord. And then you could have bilateral foraminal stenosis. You could have a lot of different things going on there that could cause a lot of problems. And this is an offensive tackle. Like, their back is extremely important. Everybody's back is extremely important. But offensive linemen, defensive linemen, if you have a back injury, it's pretty tough to play football at any position. But this is a huge risk that could potentially have Maui-Noah slip. No pun intended. Slip disc, slip, yeah, I get it. But the point is, if he slips, is that a player that you want Brad Holmes to draft? For those of you that think he drafts injured players and they haven't worked out, is that a player you'd want him to draft? I don't. It's not a player that I would want. We've seen it happen. And to someone's point, Levi Owens-Rike, right? He had a minor back injury in college. Now, when he came into the league, he got injured. And he ended up having a back injury right away. And it took him years to get back, like 3 seasons to finally get back. And when he came back and he played in 24, great year. Great year. He was a top 10, top 15, somewhere in that range. Of the games that he played, he was playing at such a high level. He was a menace. And to be able to come back and do that, and then the next year he got injured during, I think, OTAs or something, or he messed up his knee. He got sidelined for another year. But that wasn't a pre-existing injury. It was another injury. And so that happens. And oftentimes with backs, your backs will affect your hips. Your hips will affect your knees. They all work together. They all work together. If you have bad hips, you could have a bad back. If you have bad back, you could have bad hips. If you have bad hips, you're going to have bad knees and bad hamstrings. So I would run away from Maui Noah. The point is, even though that he doesn't need surgery now and he's asymptomatic, this could sideline him for 3 to 4 months if he does in fact need to go in for microdiscectomy surgery, clean it up, and then he's done. Like, he'll be done potentially for the season, but at least 3 to 4 months. And depending on when he has a surgery, I mean, that could shelve him for a year. I don't think teams that are taking, an offensive lineman in the top 10 want to bring in a top 10 that could potentially need a microdiscectomy surgery very early in their career. Now, he could be totally fine after that. He might not ever need a surgery, but one front office executive said last week that if the injury flares up in training camp and requires surgery, it might potentially end Maui Noah's rookie season. No teams sound overly concerned about the long-term ramifications of the injury, but the herniated disc has at least been discussed in war rooms currently across the league, and so that could be the first major slide of this year's draft, where Maui Noah could be available after the top 10. You heard it here first. Let's get into some wide receiver class rumors. It feels as if opinions on this year's wide receiver class are varying widely. From one executive to another, there's a difference of opinion here. There were a few front office executives who predicted that the USC wide receiver Mekhi Lemon would go slightly later than projected. Yet one coach compared him to Lions wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown. Lemon is currently the 9th player on Mel Kiper's big board. And when the video drops tonight of the worst mock drafters ever, I'm going to tell you that Mel Kiper's big board is worthless. But here's the quote. One coach said that, quote, this kid is a baller. This kid's ball skills are just as good, if not better, than St. Brown's. Pause. If he would block in the run game, this kid is going to have the same impact if you use him the right way. Come on. Are we really trying to compare this kid to Amon-Ra St. Brown and say that he's going to have as big of an impact as Amon-Ra St. Brown?
The lie detector determined that was a lie.
That's a lie. The kid hasn't played one down in the NFL. Let's hit the pause button on Mekhi Lemon for a moment. Look, I'm not going to deny that he has great ball skills. I'm not going to deny that he's a good receiver. He is. And I'm also not going to deny that he's around the same size as Amon-Ra St. Brown. Came from the same school too, right? USC. So all those things line up, right, for Mekhi Lemon. But what doesn't line up is no proof, right? There's no proof, right? He needs to play before you can start comparing him to somebody like Amon-Ra St. Brown that completely took the league by storm, was drafted way later than what he should have been. A lot of teams missed out on him, and we're that much better of an organization for it, so thank you. Now, multiple other teams have also said that Arizona State's Jordan Tyson is the most talented receiver in this draft. I would agree, but he's also the most injury-prone or injury-concerned player, I think, in the draft as well. Other teams have expressed a lot of concern about both his durability and his maturity, and many teams say Tennessee's Chris Brassel has the elite talents that rival Tyson, and one GM even compared him with George Pickens. So there's a lot of variance between what teams are thinking here, and that's the fun part about the draft, And in this draft especially, I'm telling you all right now, last year I was 26 out of 32 in the first round. If I get 15 right this year, I'll be surprised. Like, this draft is so screwed up. It's not a normal draft at all. You don't really have any clue what teams are thinking of doing. And with now all the latest reports coming out that the talent is devoid in this entire class, again, I'm just going to pump my ego up a little bit. I've been telling you all that since December. Nobody wanted to believe me then. And now you're going to believe other people saying it. So whatever. But there are many more questions about the maturity here that I think is keeping, kind of all eyes on and all eyes off, both of these players. Now, then there's Washington's Denzel Boston. And I've been telling everybody from day one he's my guy in the first round. I like Denzel Boston. I think that if any team wants a surefire lock, a safe pick, if you will, and none of them are safe picks, but if you want the safest option, I firmly believe that Denzel Boston is the safest pick here, and so does Adam Schefter. He believes the same thing. But Denzel Boston has been, in some of my mock drafts, the first player, the first receiver to get selected, and the third receiver to get selected, depending on how the draft goes. This year, my draft will be released on draft day, so that way no one takes my stuff, and we'll see where he ends up. Not saying he'll be number 1. I'm not saying he's going to be number 4, but he's going to be somewhere in between there. Next up, let's do the fewest first-round trades possible. Potentially. Watch the Browns. Chiefs general manager Brett Veach is predicting a very active Thursday with plenty of trades. Others are not so sure. Now, more teams want to trade down than up this year, per multiple sources, and this means that there could be fewer first-round deals than in recent years. As it takes 2 to make a deal, we know that. There were 5 draft day trades in round 1 last year. There were 5 in 2024. There were 7 in 2023 and 9 in 2022. Teams that expect the trades, we do see to be more for jockeying position than the blockbuster, earth-shaking moves such as the deal that we saw last year between the Browns and the Jags. When Cleveland moved out of the second pick in a stunning trade with the Jags, like that was a shocking move. Now, I think they still ended up okay, and I think the Jags didn't. I think the Jags reached big time to go up and get him. Now, 1 year later, we're looking at the Browns that are already taking calls about the 6th pick, and they should. They absolutely should. And sources say that they're open to moving it. Another move back would give the Browns more capital in this draft, in which they have already scheduled to have at least 9 picks, including number 6 and 24. Now, what has been speculated, and I think I mentioned this last night, with the Giants kind of screwing everything up, the Giants have been labeled as either going after Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs or 2 offensive linemen because their offensive line is in shambles. It could go either way. It really depends on who falls where. If Sonny Styles is there at 5, they'd probably take him. If Love was there at 5, which I can't imagine, they're going to take him. But if both those players are gone, you're not taking Caleb Downs at 5. I can't imagine that. You're probably looking at an offensive lineman. But if they're out on Maui Noah's back issue, then maybe they go, Olivanga Nioni at 5 instead of trying to wait till 10. There's so many options here. But I will tell you, I'm more than 80% that the Giants would want offensive line early in this draft, even though the true blue chips will be there at both spots. There's really not a lot of options later for offensive linemen. Like, when Fano and Proctor are gone, that's it. Monroe Freeling, Nioni and Maui Noah. Again, if you're okay with Maui Noah's back injury, then, that's it. You got 5 guys really in this draft that could potentially help your team. And even at that, Monroe Freeling, he's a second-round grade for me. He's not a first-round grade. He's just not. He has a lot of things that he needs to clean up. Caden Proctor is a first-round grade. Still has things to clean up, but a little lesser extent than Monroe Freeling. I think that when you have the size and the strength of Caden Proctor like that, that helps you a little bit more up front when you're lacking in other areas. So with the Browns, the potential trade-up candidate that some front office executives are including in the conversation are the Cowboys. And the Cowboys are looking to potentially move up, and they have 2 first-round picks. So the possibility of them moving all the way up to 6 is possible. Now, they've said that they want to hold on to pick number 20, and they could potentially do that and still move up to 6, but they need big-time defensive players. And so when you think about what the Cowboys could be looking at pick 6, it would be Sonny Styles. It could be Arvell Reese. It could be Bain. I think it could be any 3 of those players that they're looking to get. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Cowboys are at 12 right now. And so a move from 12 to 6, if I go back to my draft day trades sheet, a move from 12 to 6. Where is it? It's going to cost a ransom. Especially in this draft. I mean, just moving from like 15 to 10 is a third and a second plus a pick swap. You could probably expect a third, a second, a pick swap, and another first. So I think the Cowboys would be giving up next year's one, this year's one, a third, and a fourth to be able to move up from 12 to 6. And if I'm the Browns, I'm considering that. Because if they want offensive line, then they're going to have plenty of options at 10 or at 12 to get offensive line. Assuming that there's not a run early on offensive linemen, and I'm not expecting that. I think there's going to be 2 phases of offensive linemen in this draft. You're going to have a couple that go in the top 12, and I think you're going to have a couple more that go before 16. At 17, that's kind of where the Lions are with their pants down at their ankles right now, potentially out on not getting one of the offensive linemen that they love. So that would mean that at pick 50, you could potentially see the Lions getting an offensive lineman, but they're going to have to move way up to get an offensive lineman that even makes any sense. So that's where I'm leaning, more towards, and I'll get into this in a second on the Lions, that Lions, I've said it for a week and a half, 2 weeks now, may not get an edge or an offensive lineman in this draft until late. I know everybody jumped on that train when I said it, but it's true. It's 100% true. They may not. They may not, especially given the fact that this draft is just, it's a mess. It really is. So I'm expecting the Cowboys to move up, especially if their player is there. If Reese is somehow there at 6, or Bailey or Bain, I can't imagine Bailey will be. Sonny Styles, good potential to be there. I think they're moving up, and I think that the Browns would be smart to do that. Next up, we'll talk about the Cowboys. Now, the one long shot scenario to really keep an eye on, and we're going to do that right when we get back. I'm going to take a quick break. Potentially. There we go. Right on time, Nightbot. Good for you, buddy. All right, if you guys want to get your takes out there, it's hard, right? So backing all of your takes up on a written article, join DetroitFootballJournal.com today and become a writer. It's all good. You don't need to have a journalist degree, especially if you don't know that the word irregardless is not a word. That's okay. We can fix that in post edits. DetroitFootballJournal.com. I need fan takes. So email me, mailbag@rockdown.com. I will be checking emails this week, of course, for the mailbag. But we'll get you set up. I want to get people writing. I want more fan takes. I want a full fan forum on DetroitFootballJournal.com. And so I want to give access to some people to be able to do these things. Anyway, hit me up. Let's get you guys locked and loaded so that we can get your takes, your projections, your mock drafts. In a place where they're always going to stay, right? They're always going to be visible. Always going to be visible. Let's get some music going, man. Gotta drown out the dead noise here. All right, Cowboys. One long shot scenario. There are draft surprises every year. We know this. And with players going in spots no one forecasted. Here's one that, depending on how the first few picks play out, which I think a lot of us understand, one is Mendoza, two is probably Bailey or Reese, and then there's three with the Cardinals. What are they going to do? I really thought it was going to be Maui Noah this whole time, and now I'm thinking it could be Sonny Styles, it could be Caleb Downs. I think that they could go in any direction. I'll come back to them in a minute too. I think that there's some opportunity for them to trade. Now, there's been some speculation in a handful of front offices about the Cowboys. So if we take the Jets, if the Jets take, let me turn this down a little bit. If the Jets take Texas Tech edge rusher David Bailey at number 2, which many believe will happen, and then if the Cardinals take Love, could happen. I don't necessarily see it. I mean, if you want to take the best player in the draft at that point, it's Love, 1,000%. But he's gaining some traction. But if the Titans then take Ohio State linebacker Sonny Styles, which is one of Tennessee's options, then Ohio State edge rusher Arvell Reese or Bailey, if the Jets take Reese at number 2, again, if they take Bailey at number 2, I mean, everything's up in the air. Well, one of those two guys could slide to 5. And it would suddenly be very tempting for any team, such as the Cowboys, to potentially trade all the way up for a top-tier pass rusher. Now, they're armed with a couple of first-round draft picks, but again, they don't want to lose out on their later-round draft pick at pick 20. So the draft would have to go a very specific way for this scenario to play out, but two teams raised this scenario this weekend, wondering if it somehow could unfold this week that this exact scenario would make this draft very awkward, compelling, weird. Just what a weird draft. What a weird draft. And I think that that's what's going to make it so much fun, because nobody really has a damn clue as to what's going to happen. Nobody does. Everyone's been going back and forth. You got your board. You got to live by your board. Like, you have your rankings. You got to live by your rankings. But then there's that one thing that nobody has. And that's what's inside the mind of the GM. That's the toughest thing. Because they could wake up on the wrong side of the bed that morning and they're thinking, you know what? I'm going to do something different today. It could be driving into work, and you see some sign that's makes you think of something else. And those scenarios happen all the time. GMs just change their mind. Now, not that we knew what their mind was before, but they change their mind all the time. So it really screws up the boards. Dallas Cowboys' proposed trade would be moving up to number 3 with Arizona Cardinals, a team that clearly, they got rid of Micah Parsons, and you could see that defense fell off a little bit. So a trade up for a player to try to replicate some of that lost production, it makes a lot of sense. But moving up to the spot at number 3 would almost certainly require both of Dallas's first-round picks, and I don't think that they're going to do that. Jerry Jones has fueled the pre-draft speculation, as he does every year, but he's also stated, I don't want to give up 20. Now, at the recently completed league meetings, Jerry Jones said this, quote, I've looked at the mirror a lot about how to go up and down and trade and do those kinds of things. And absolutely will entertain improving or an in-draft read on what gives us a better chance to get another player. End quote. How old is Jerry Jones now? Is he pushing 80? I don't know how old he is. He's old. I think he needs to turn the reins over to another individual, but I don't think he's going to until he's, in his mausoleum or wherever he ends up resting, for the rest of his eternity. I think that the Cowboys are going to do something drastic in this trade or this draft simply because of that. Because Jerry Jones is aging, like he's well aged, and he's not aged to a fine wine. He's an interesting character, to say the least. But he wants to win a Super Bowl before he dies. Like, he wants to win another. And I think that this gives you an opportunity in this draft to do some wild stuff. So I'm expecting that the Cowboys are going to do something. And I'm sure a lot of people are now going to think the same thing, that it makes a lot of sense that the Cowboys are going to do something because of the age factor here. And we don't know how much time anybody ever has, but Jerry doesn't have a lot, right? He doesn't have unless you're organ farming now, he doesn't have a whole lot of time left. So I expect a trade there. Potentially at number 3, potentially at number 6 with the Jets. I'm sorry, potentially at number 3 with the Cardinals, potentially at number 6 with the Browns. I see both of those options available. And then I wouldn't even put it past the Giants, who want more draft picks. Like I've said, I've heard that the Giants want to move up and they want to take Love, and that could happen at 3. I've heard that the Jets want to move back, and that can happen with the Giants at 5. Jets go to 5. They still get a dynamic player, and they get an extra pick, or 2 or 3. But the Giants, I see them doing 2 or 3 different things. They need offensive linemen. You trade from 5 to 12, you have 10 and 12. You are right in the spot to get 2 offensive linemen, potentially Carnell Tate, potentially Mansour Delane, potentially Caleb Downs. There's some really good options at 10 and 12. But trading back, to 12 with the Cowboys would give them more more draft capital in this draft to make more things happen. And then, of course, moving up. I can't imagine that the Giants would trade 10 and 5 to move up to 12 or to move up to 2 unless number 16 was involved. And I think it would have to be involved. If they traded all 4 of those picks, 10 and 5 for 2 and 16, the Jets would be kicking in something. They absolutely would have to kick in something. I don't see that being a fair trade. It could be, but one of those teams got to kick in something extra. The question is what? What is it? What's it going to cost this year? All right, now the Cardinals. Like I said, admittedly, this draft is, like I said, it's a mess. GM Monty Ossenfort during I'm doing the move back up pattern that he's pulled off so deftly as first round of the 2023 draft unfolded. And in this scenario, the Cards drop from 3rd to 12 with the Cowboys, and then they elevate back to 8th, probably at the cost of round 1 flip plus a 3rd rounder. This is per Adam Schefter. Now, if you guys remember the video that I did the other day on proven draft trades, what have I been saying? A move like this generally will include a 3rd round pick, and that's it. Once you get out of the top 5, you get out of the top 10, or you're trying to move back up into the top 8 like this is, or top 9 or top 10, a third round pick, maybe a little bit more, but that's it. If you're doing a pick swap and a third round pick, more than likely a team could accept that when you're only moving back, in this case, it would be 8 to 12 with the Saints. And I could see that happening. The Saints definitely would love to have some more draft capital too. So it's going to fill the need. To get Maui Noah would fill a need at right tackle or even, at the right guard spot. And I think that Austin Fort builds the infrastructure for whomever is going to be his next quarterback. And so that's where it makes a lot of sense to me with Arizona, that they're going to try to paint the lines here with offensive linemen as well. They don't have a future quarterback right now, but they're going to get one next year in 2027. I can almost guarantee it. And so between now and then, you need to do as much as you can to facilitate building a massive offensive line to be ready for that quarterback. That's a smart way to build your team. Build all the other assets first, right? Build the trenches, then add a quarterback. Oftentimes, teams take a quarterback and then they have to build the trenches, and so that quarterback's going to develop for 2 to 3 seasons, and they don't usually win much because he didn't have an offensive line to protect him. And then he takes too many hits and too many sacks, and then, well, their career ends up seeing a lot of, issues because they're seeing ghosts now. Now they're scared shitless of what's going to happen on the next play. Just look at Caleb Williams. How many times he's on the ground, he doesn't want to get up. He's taken a lot of shots already in his short career. So then talking about the Saints, if they move back to 12, you could be looking at Mansour Delane here. You could, if he's still there. So they may be closer to contending than you think, the Saints. But no reason that Mickey Loomis, the GM of the Saints, shouldn't attempt to accrue more picks in this draft, especially for a roster that's suddenly getting much younger. Now, with a huge need at corner following the departure of Alontae Taylor, the Saints could solve it by bringing in a guy who's right up the road in Mansour Delane. Almost certainly a premier corner available this year, 6 foot, 187 pounds, All-America, lockdown ability, and might even be able to eat up some of Taylor's snaps in the slot. Now, Delane was rarely used there at Virginia Tech and LSU, but the potential is still there for him to be a very versatile corner in the NFL. So there's plenty of draft options. Next, I want to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers here, because this is another team that I think the Lions could have potential trade options with. Heading into this week's draft, the host of this year's draft, Pittsburgh, they have 12 draft picks, more than any other team. Yet the Steelers also have their share of unresolved issues. For starters, left tackle Broderick Jones had a setback to the neck injury that he sustained last season, and he's scheduled to be examined yet this week before the draft to determine whether or not he's even going to be available for training camp and or the start of the season. And so that puts another team that's looking for offensive line. Now, per league sources, this is what they're saying. It could influence whether Pittsburgh needs to find a new left tackle during the first 2 days of the draft or not, right? Quarterback Aaron Rodgers. He was originally going to give the Steelers an answer on whether he would be able to play in 2026, and that was supposed to happen a month after the 2025 season ended. If Rodgers hasn't informed them before the draft, at least before Thursday night, right, then Pittsburgh will have a tough conversation at, should we take Ty Simpson at 21? Or should we trade back off of 21 and still take Ty Simpson, but just take him a little bit later and stack a couple more picks that we don't need? So I think that Tim Simpson is in play at 21. I also think that offensive line is in play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I would not want to see where the Steelers trade with the Lions at 17 and then take Caden Proctor or Monroe Freeling, but that could also be the play. They might want to trade with the Jets, knowing that the Lions want offensive line. They may want to trade with the Jets. The Jets move from 16 to 21, pick up an extra third round pick in this draft is very valuable, or even a pick for next year, plus a 4th round pick this year. So there's just a lot of movement A lot of movement that can happen here, and a lot of realistic movement. And then you have the Steelers' proposed trade with the Falcons. This would be going after Spencer Fano, so a team that has been proven to be more aggressive on the personnel front in recent years continues to be in the position of trying to thread the needle between winning the presumptive, winning with the presumptive Aaron Rodgers at quarterback if he does come back, and then whoever follows him in the near future. So Fano was a standout tackle in college. Could still be in the NFL, but his shorter arms seem to be more suited to guard or center, I think, in the NFL. I don't picture him as a tackle either. Now, regardless, not irregardless, Aaron Rodgers is the key holder here. Is he coming back or is he not? And I think that has the Steelers probably in a little bit of a bind here. I would do whatever I'm going to do in this draft without Aaron Rodgers' decision anyway, if I were them. So if the Pittsburgh Steelers trade with the Falcons, where does that put them? That puts them at, where are they? Where the hell are the Falcons? Hold on. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm reading this wrong. It's trading with the Rams via the Falcons, which that doesn't make sense to me, but that would put them up at number 13. So the Steelers jumping the Lions, jumping the Bucks, jumping the Ravens, jumping the Jets, the Vikings and the Panthers, and getting all the way up to 13 with the Rams. I am less likely to think that this trade makes sense. I don't think that the Rams are going to want to move a whole lot away from 13 or even the top 15 if they're expected to get an offensive lineman. I think the Monroe Freeling or even Fano makes somewhat of some sense there for the Rams. I don't see this trade as very viable, but it is something that is on the board. And then next you have the Cardinals, the proposed trade from the Green Bay Packers via the Cowboys. And this would be for the quarterback, Ty Simpson. Now, could Arizona be that team that comes up for the scrutinized quarterback? Possibly. Now, it's been widely regarded as Simpson being the number 2 quarterback this year. I don't think anyone's discrediting that idea. And it could make a lot of sense. You know, they have a veteran, Jacoby Brissett, right now. He remains in place, but he's a bridge option if they want to push this to 2027. Weapons are fairly good in Arizona right now, and they could be adding more to that early in the draft if they do, in fact, decide to pick and stick and pick at 3. They could definitely add another weapon to the offense there with Jeremiah Love. And this is assuming that the rumor that Marvin Harrison stays in Arizona is not moved to Green Bay. I still don't know where that came from or why that's even been talked about. I can't imagine that they're going to move Marvin Harrison, at least to a team that doesn't have a first-round pick. That makes no sense. So this is an option where I guess I could see if the Cardinals make a trade for Ty Simpson. I guess I don't see where I put them. Like I don't see where they land. I guess I'm a little, maybe I'm misunderstanding this one. I don't see where they land. I don't see where the Cardinals land in a trade with. I mean, the Cowboys are picking at 20. I mean, I guess it would be there. And I think that's way too early for Simpson. I think it's way too early. And I can't imagine the Cardinals moving all the way back up to get him. But hey, I've seen wilder things. I think that you could probably take him at 32 or I'm sorry, 31 with the Patriots or even 32 with the Seahawks. I think there's an option there for him. All right, quick break. When we get back, we're going to talk about the Rams trade, the Raiders, and we got two more things to get to, and then I gotta rush out of here. Be right back here in just a few moments.
Yeah.
On my phone was Peyton Manning. He said, Jeff, I feel your pain. Will you join me in exorcising the curse of Bobby Lane? Just like that, we started winning. Just like that, we were playoff bound. Just like that, way up in heaven, Bobby Lane turned around. Say goodbye to all that sorrow. Say goodbye to all that pain. Say goodbye. Same old lion and the curse of Bobby Lane. Everybody
Pressured by Hutchinson, he goes down again.
Okay. I guess to answer Raw's question in the chat says, does Simpson scream Kenny Pickett to you? No. Not even close, honestly. The biggest thing with Kenny Pickett, it wasn't his ability, like it wasn't his mental, you know, he was a super smart individual. It was the hand size. That's where the problem was. And the hand size between Kenny Pickett and Ty Simpson is what, an inch and a half or something like that. I think that Ty Simpson has pretty close to 10-inch hands or 9.5-inch hands. Kenny Pickett was like 8 1/8, 8 3/8, something like that. Pretty small hands. So he could barely hang on to the football. And I think that was the only thing that really hurt his career. Again, it wasn't his ability. It wasn't his playmaking ability or, you know, where to go with the football. It was all physical. You know, so I wouldn't see that. Another question in here. Peter Van Larven says, Will, would you accept a trade idea? Jets 33 and one of their 27 firsts for 17. So Lions move back to 33. And really all we get is a 27 first. I'll tell you, on the face of a trade like that, I think you're a little bit rich. Or maybe a lot rich. Let me see here. Let me go through some of my known trades. Okay, this is as close as I can get. 2020 or 2018, so pretty far removed from where we are today. The Saints traded 27-14 for Marcus Davenport. And let's see, the Saints traded 27, a 5th round pick, and a future 1st round pick for number 14. And see, the problem is all drafts are different. And in this draft class, it's not going to be valued that high. 33 or 17 would be valued pretty high, but not all these trades are going to be valued very high because of the talent, issue that we see that's been recognized. In that scenario, moving back to 33 would surely net you Caleb Lomu or Maxi Hanachor. I don't know that I would be. I do like Max, but if you're looking for a day one starter, then you're not getting that. So what would be other choice at 33? Like, what are you going after at 33 if it's not offensive line? I doubt it's edge, because the edge at 33 is the same at 68 in this class. And linebacker, even linebacker, man, you at 50, you're going to get a linebacker that's decent, but not a day one starter. Jacob Rodriguez, as good as he is, he's not a day. He'll start, but he's not a game changer. Not yet. He's going to take time. At least a couple seasons. So I don't know. Probably not. I would want, if I was going to trade 17 to 33, I would want a 2nd round pick this year. I would want 33 and another 2nd. So I would be looking at a team that has multiple 2nd round picks if you're going to move that far back. Or a very early 3rd round pick. A 2nd and a 3rd round pick. So 33 and then a very early 3rd round pick. All right, Rams. Rams at, where are they at? 16, 17, where are the Rams? 13, excuse me. Rams at 13. Now, the proposed trade here is from the Steelers and wide receiver Denzel Boston. If the Rams decide not to go after offensive line at 13, they really need a receiver, and they need one bad. And according to this report, it's even inclusive of AJ Brown as a potential trade. I don't know that LA does that. They could. If you traded pick 13 for AJ Brown, I guess you're just trying to go after it, right? But is AJ Brown really going to do enough to help you win? The problem is Devontae Adams has been listed on the trade block, and Puka Nakua's in rehab. I have no idea what's going to happen with Puka Nacua this year. Like, his career just went sky high, and now it could be going to the bottom and done, depending on what type of problems he has. So it's really muddy in L.A., but I do like Denzel Boston in L.A. I think that's a perfect fit. You've got a big body, receiver that would take place of the Devontae Adams. You have somewhat decent speed, but Boston can definitely do some damage. And I think, you got a supersized red zone target at that point too. So if the Rams stick and pick, then I would say that if it's not offensive line, they're going to go receiver at 13. And then next we have the Raiders. Again, another proposed trade here from the Texans for offensive tackle Blake Miller. Obviously, we know the Crosby trade fell through, and I still can't believe that Lions fans are continuing to pump their chest and say, we need to get Max Crosby, trade Isaac Tisla and this player, and let's go get Max Crosby. Like, come on, people. Come on, man. Like, just let it go already. Just goose fabra, whatever you got to do, let it go. Anyway, the Vegas Raiders wouldn't have to spend too much to get back into the first round, possibly only a fourth rounder, and maybe some extra sugar in this scenario. It could get the Raiders back up to 36, and this is where I want the Lions, is at 36. So if they bring in after they bring in Mendoza, you want to bring in another quality protector, right? They really need an offensive line. Or offensive lineman in this draft. And so at 36, you could end up with Blake Miller. You could end up with Maxi Honachor. And so either one of those two options I think would be great, but Max could be gone by 36, but Blake could still be there. And so it makes a lot of sense. And that's again, so even to your trade option earlier, that's why I'm saying, like, at 33, you could still end up with an offensive lineman of choice in the second round category. Definitely day 2 grade or second round grade. But are they really going to help you day 1? That's the biggest question. Either way, I think the Raiders are okay with making a move like that because they have time, right? They have time on their side. The Lions don't. We don't have time. If you're looking to help your team out immediately, then I think the short-term solution in Detroit is to find the absolute best players that can help you day 1. And where are those players, right? Where are those players in this draft? And without me giving too much of my nuggets away, just take that for what it is and run with it. Where are the best players? Where the Lions are picking? Where do they have to get the best players that can help them this year? Of course, you'd have to agree on what the Lions actually need. And unfortunately, a lot of people are going to say, oh, they need an edge. No, they don't. They don't need an edge. They haven't needed an edge this entire time. They haven't. Their defense was, top 5 against the run before injury. They were top 5 against the run in 23 with who they had. And they didn't have another first or second round, pick playing opposite of Aiden. They didn't have a $30 million guy opposite of Aiden. They had a bunch of nobodies out there, and they did just fine. You need run stuffers. If you stuff the run, everything changes schematically for a defense. So I need run stuffers is who I want. I don't need pass rushers. I need run stuffers. And there's a few run stuffers in this draft, both on the edge and on the interior. But the interior, often our defensive line this year, not a lot of these guys belong in the first round, and I don't even know if any of them get taken in the first round, to be honest with you. All right, now short-term gain, long-term loss. And then we have one more thing. And I'm already over my time. There's been a noticeable shift this year. NFL front office executives, it really has them aware, if not alarmed. And that is with the NIL reality in college sports. The more players are staying in school longer, and the average age of players in the draft has risen over the last decade. Players entering the NFL today are at least 1 year older sometimes 2, than they were a decade ago. The age difference has been noted and pointed out by multiple front office executives. And some NFL teams say that they are not only getting older players, but get this, they're getting players who are more banged up. And so the thinking now is that college football's gain is the NFL's loss. And so think about that when you think about Brad Holmes and the moves he makes, and then what happens with the players, you know, in year 1, 2, or 3 if they suffer injuries. Well, they're taking a lot more hits in college than they ever had before. Like repetitions, reps is everything. You know, your body has a certain amount of reps in it. Football players have a certain amount of reps before something happens. Your ACL, your MCL, your PCL, your Achilles, you have a certain amount of reps in every single one of those ligaments before it's going to snap. It's proven, right? And so I think that when you're looking at the college players subjected to more hits and injuries, and when they stay in school now because they're getting paid more money. Like Ty Simpson, he went to the NFL and he gave up $6.5 million. He's not even going to make that in 4 years potentially, depending on where he's picked. You know, he might end up making, you know, 15 to 18 million over 4 years, as opposed to $6.5 million a year. So their upside flattens, you know, as a 24-year-old player. They just don't have as much upside as a 21-year-old. The difference is a lot of these players are ready to compete and play now, and they are who they are. And so that's the other thing. When I say that they are who they are, when you're bringing in players that are 23, 24, 25, these are not high-ceiling guys. These are low-ceiling prospects. So however they are performing today, you can expect a minor bump in productive use and production over the next 2 seasons. And then after that, that's it. That's who that player is. Whereas before, you bring in a 20, 21-year-old that playing pretty well, maybe it has a first-round grade, but you still have a lot more ceiling left there. Not today. The ceiling's lower. The floor's a little bit higher. And so we know who these players are. And so when they're getting graded, it's, you know, these grades are just falling through the floor because they're just, their growth is out. I don't want to say stunted, but their growth has been maximized already. And those bad traits that have been ingrained in them in college, if that team, you know, has developed bad traits in that player, you're not going to get those bad traits out. Whereas a 20, 21-year-old, you can kind of reset them a little bit. So at this point, this is gaining a lot more attention, and I'm not surprised. Look, I've been talking about this for a while, and I'm just hopeful that at some point more people just understand. When I give you guys information, I'm not just talking out of my ass. Like, I'm talking to people that matter. I'm talking, have good conversations with, you know, people that do this for a living, you know, inside the NFL or at the college level. And I get really good information back. And so a lot of things that I talk about are just from previous conversation. And now everyone's talking about it. So older players that have, you know, had extra time in college because of the whole C issue from 2020, that has really tainted the NFL draft. Brett Veach told reporters that when the official decision date for the underclassmen came, I believe we moved over 25 guys off of our board that we had in the top 75, top 100. Can you believe that? And he told reporters this at the Combine this year, that when it was official, when the decision date came for underclassmen, 25% or more of the players were then shifted off their board. And he goes on to say, so, quote, it really impacts, I think, the draft. And then you're getting older prospects as you go on, end quote. He ain't lying, man. He's not lying. Other prospects to watch, maybe one in here for the Lions. Arizona cornerback Traden Stukes seems to be climbing up some of the draft boards as he's been busy traveling in recent weeks with 11 top 30 visits, including Pittsburgh on Wednesday, Kansas City on Tuesday, and Seattle last Monday. Stukes had 4 interceptions last season. He ran a 4.33 40 at the combine. Teams say that they think that he can play both safety positions, nickel corner and outside corner. So you know damn well who just made my list. I got to watch tape today on Stukes. One NFL general manager called Stukes, quote, one of the best safeties I've seen in my time as a GM. And then added that he would draft him ahead of Ohio State's Caleb Downs. What? He says, quote, this guy makes freaky plays that I haven't seen other safeties make, end quote. So it would not shock this executive report here that Stukes ends up in the first round. No one's talked about Stukes. I sure as hell haven't. Totally missed on this guy. Then you have Ole Miss receiver Dejuan Stribling, who's also been busy traveling, and then he wrapped up his 8 total visits last week in Philly and New England and Chicago. That's right, Chicago's looking for a receiver. He also had private workouts with Dallas, New Orleans. Stribling had back-to-back 800-yard seasons, and he also ran a 4.36. So he's generated some attention himself. So last but not least, we got to still get in the Bears here. And then there's some latest AI mock drafts after the Giants trade and how that screwed everything up. Chicago Bears, according to this latest mock draft by some AI model, has the Bears reaching for Zion Young at pick 25. Zion Young at pick 25. Makes sense. It makes sense. And, you know, the way that I look at the Bears, I think that now that you have Ben Johnson on board, I think that you're going to see, some pretty savvy moves. You're going to see a lot of reaches because they don't care what anyone says. Ben Johnson doesn't give a rip what anybody thinks, and neither does Ryan Poles. But you're going to see some pretty savvy moves. Bears, as I mentioned this weekend, or I think it might have been last Friday, I have also been in the conversation of trying to jump the Lions, and that would be to potentially get an offensive lineman. So a lot of moves, a lot of rumors, a lot of conversations still yet to be had. We're only into the, day one of the week leading up to the draft. I mean, we got 4 days left, right? And today's the 4th day. So there's going to be a lot that's going to come out today. Even more tomorrow, a lot more on Wednesday, and Thursday morning, all bets are off. All bets are off. Planning to do full draft coverage here. So I really need your help to share the stream. That's the only way we're going to get a lot of people in, because we will be shadow banned like everybody else. Or a lot of people will be shadow banned. Companies that spend big bucks on promoting their streams, they'll be fine. ESPN, NBC, CBS, all the NFL draft analysts, they're going to be fine. But a lot of the smaller market podcasts, they won't be fine. They won't even put our stuff in anybody's feed. Period. They just don't. We've already seen it over the last week or so, week and a half. I mean, even a lot of the major networks, even if you look at some of the local major networks, they're not getting a lot of views. And that's because every year this happens. Every single year this happens. Tilla says, or no, where was that? Aaron Green says that GM was really his agent. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. I'm curious. I'm going to take a look at this guy real quick. I am curious. I don't know how I didn't watch this guy at all. Let me just throw on some film here.
MLB.tv on ESPN.
Hold on. Gotta mute that up. I gotta find the film. I gotta dig in my Dropbox and go find the film. Wow. So I'm watching a play right now. He plays for the Arizona Wildcats. And is this Duke? Which game is this? He just undercut her out, was not even looking, and then turns around late. Great instincts. I can already see what he did here. On that play, I mean, his back turned. He was running. He was running downfield, had his back turned, and didn't even look back until you could.
I mean, I can't imagine what I'd be without them.
You could tell that he looked right at the wide receiver's eyes. So as he was running backwards, shading the receiver, staying underneath the route, he turned. He looked right into the receiver's eyes, and as soon as he did, he flipped his head, and the ball was right there, landed in his arms. So that tells me good instincts. That's just one play, but tells me he's got good instincts to recognize when the ball's coming. Where is he? I wonder where he's rated right now. Before I get off, I'm going to look at SIS. Let's see where they have him rated. All right, so I have a procedure at like noon today, and then I should be fine tomorrow. We'll see how I feel today. I don't like getting stabbed and injected, but got to get it done. He's 6 foot, 5'8", 190 pounds, so a little bit on the smaller side. And according to SIS, he is the 15th rated safety. But here's what I've noticed. The grades for some of these guys, like he's a 6'2", and a 6'8", 6'9", 6 or 7, those are pure starters. And so down at a 6'2", it says that he's a limited starter or a multi-position backup. And what we read here is that, what they're saying is he can play, any position, both safety positions, nickel corner and outside cornerback. Now his measurables, he had 10-10 broad, 38 vert. He's got decent arm length at 31 3/4. Hands are a little bit small. Ran a 4.33. He has 1.7 in special teams value. Obviously, he'd be great at special teams, hopefully. Where's his HOB at? Here, let me show you guys this. I'm gonna look at his HOB here. All right, so he's used in man 30% of the time last year, 62% of the slots. I mean, again, with that one GM saying he can play anywhere. I mean, this would show me. I mean, look where he's played. I mean, mostly in the slot in his career. That would tell me definitely nickel, up towards in the box. Negative 17 EPA. That's damn good. A 6th year though, 6 year senior. He's going to be a lot older. $13 pass breakups last year. What? Hold the phone. Why are these set up different? Yeah, usage and EPA, coverage, advanced coverage. Yeah, they're set up way different. All right, so under advanced coverage, Caleb Downs only had 4 pass breakups last year. Stukes had 13. That B plus MT, that broken plus missed tackle percentage, 12% for Stukes. 12% for Downs. Downs had 10 broken or missed tackles. Stukes only had 7. Stukes has 14 TFLs over his career, 2 last year. Downs had 5 last year, 18 in his 3-year career. 6 foot, 206, 30 and a quarter inch arms, 9.5 inch hands for Caleb Downs. And I mean, Stukes is bigger, he's longer, he's got smaller hands, and he's faster than Caleb Downs. Very interesting. Let's see what the scouting report says. I'm just going to go to the bottom. Stukes projects as a backup cornerback best suited for a too-high scheme with position versatility. Given his length, physicality, and mirroring issues near the line, some teams may view him as a safety. He is best playing inside, but has the traits to move outside when needed. On third downs, he can be a chess piece to maximize the overall defensive scheme, primarily playing a big nickel role. I just said that. I would agree there. He has experience on special teams and the desired physical traits and willingness to be physical, to be a core special teams player. In the run game, he can react a step late in the run game, delaying his approach, but after locating the ball, he has strong closing speed and often takes a clean path to the ball carrier. He is aggressive and willing to come up to the line and is generally a reliable tackler. You guys probably can't even see that. Generally a reliable tackler who approaches with proper pace. Stukes can play behind the line of scrimmage and possesses the strength to bring down bigger backs. He breaks down effectively and limits the yards after contact. Developing a quicker downhill trigger will be the next step in his run defense progression. So I like this statement here. While he did not have a ton of reps, there where he flashes of lockdown potential when his hands and his feet worked in unison. Interesting. Maybe that's a 4th round pick for the Lions. Potential. Got to watch film though.
Pressured by Hutchinson. He goes down.
Oops. Didn't mean to throw that up. All right, I got to run. Y'all been great. That's pretty cool, the 988 RAS. I'm not big on the RAS score. I think a lot of you know that. When I look at the RAS score, like go look at Amon-Ra St. Brown's or Puka Nakua's, you know what I mean? Like go look at some of the top players and look at their RAS scores, and then go look at some of the, players that flunked out of the NFL and look at their RAS scores. I mean, some players have a 999 or a 998, and they just didn't turn out to be great players. I'm not high on the RAS because all it shows is some agility and some the height, weight, speed stuff. But at the same time, it's pretty hard to compare players when not everybody's doing the same. Not a lot of guys, do the 3-cone or the shuttle because, why? Why do it? It's highly subjective. And so when not everyone is doing it, that really screws up RAS scores because that RAS really needs all that stuff in there. Well, that's interesting, though. Just not that big on the whole RAS. Attila, you're going to have to show me your statement there where you put that on social media. Let's see. Trying to go back to see if there's any questions. So like Peter Van Larhoven says, why would teams want more draft capital in this draft if it's cheeks? It's not that it's cheeks, and I don't even understand cheeks, but it's positioning. It's not about gaining draft capital, it's about positioning. So when you evaluate a draft board, here, let me go to the draft matrix real quick. Which this is probably going to be pretty hard for you to see, but I'll do my best. So here's a draft matrix by SIS. I'll just limit it to whatever shows up so you can actually see it. Well, here's quarterback, running back. Here, you know what? I'll just select linebacker, corner, safety, edge, guard, tackle. And let's see if all those can fit. Probably not. All right, we'll take guard off. Put tackle in. We'll go DT. Get rid of offense. Nah, we'll leave that in there. So you would probably all agree that, linebacker, corner, safety, edge, tackle, these are all positions of need for the Lions and positions you would expect us to take, right? When you get down here, safeties. We'll just start with safeties. Look in the middle. So you have a 6'9", a 6'7", and a 6'7" for your top 3 safeties. And then after that, there's no 6'6", there's no 6'5". Then you have a whole bunch of guys in the 6'4" range. Well, this 6'4" range, that is going to be round 2. And not all these players are going to go in round 2. Some of these players are going to go in round 3. And then you have no 6'3s. You have one 6'2, and then you have no 6'1s or 6s. You got a couple of 5'9s. You got a whole bunch of 5'8s. So if you're looking for a safety, if you don't get one of the top 3 in the first round, there's only going to be a couple here. Like Kilgore is one of my favorites. Wheatley is my second. I also like Halsey. Those are probably my top 3 safeties not named Emmanuel McNeil Warren. And those guys are going to be gone in the second round. Kilgore could potentially slip into third, but I don't see it. Well, who we don't see here is Stooks. Where's Stooks? Oh, they got him listed as a corner. Where is he? So they have him listed as a 6'2". And if you look at what their glossary says on a 6'2", good quality backup. So it's going to be a rotational player. A rotational player. 6'1" to 6, developmental player. So that means anything below a 6'1" is a highly developmental player. Now, it says developmental, but these are guys that need a lot of work. And even the guys at 6'2" to 7, they also need work, right? A lot of these guys need work. But let's look at how many players are below that threshold of 6'1", so 6'1", 6'2". Well, almost the majority of all of your players are in that range. Look at this. And this is just 5 positions. These guys are all below 6'2". So Barton, Stooks, Kennedy, Payne, Barham, Bowery, Davis. Again, go back to this. They just made it outside of the high developmental player category. And that's just one, company's workup on them. But SIS is pretty accurate. I can't wait to see what their mock looks like, and I want to see what, compare their mocks over the years. I'll be able to do that after the draft. So then that means, guys like from, a lot of Michigan players that people like Rolder, high developmental player. So that means that player is going to come in and not do much for you. Andre Fuller, the other corner that a lot of people like, not going to do much for you. Who else is in here? I mean, there's just so many players. Point being, why, to your question, why would teams want draft capital? It's because of positioning. So when you look at 6'5" and up, or even 6'4" and up, like these are the players that you want. And when you look at a board, you look at where those players are likely to be selected, and that'll tell you that, all right, if I'm picking at 50 and I'm not able to get the player that I want because I'm picking at 50, and I got to reach to get a player that I could probably get at 78, I'm going to pay that player like an extra $3 million over the course of his contract. Why would I do that? I mean, teams absolutely care how much they're paying these guys. Why would you want to pay a guy, almost twice what he's worth because you had pick 50? If I had picked 78 or 80, it's a different story. So if I were to trade and add a third round pick, well, now I'm putting myself in the position to be able to grab a player that fits the value, that fits the need, that maybe fits BPA. So I think that's kind of where I see it. It's more positioning. It's less of, I want more picks in a talent devoid draft. It's, I want to be positioned to get the player that I feel is going to be a good player for us, but I'm not going to overpay on that player. So if I can trade out a 50 and then add a 2027 pick, well, next year's draft is supposed to be loaded. And with the potential of having 6 first-round quarterbacks, well, go back and look at 2024's draft. How did that help a lot of teams, picking between 15 and probably 45? Helped them a ton because a lot of players slipped. And there was some extremely good value on players into day 2. So hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, Tilly, you got to keep receipts, buddy. You got to keep receipts. I did a horrible job at trying to get the mock draft stuff put up on the site. I didn't have a lot of people that wanted to compete with me this year, but I still would like to have fun with it and compete with everybody. So what I'd like to do is everybody submit your final mock draft to my email, to the mailbag at rockdon.com. Next year, I will create an email just for mock drafts, but everybody submit your final mock draft. And here's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to do giveaways a little bit differently this year. It's all about engagement. I mean, I've given away thousands upon thousands of dollars of freebies. So what I'd like to do is you submit a mock draft to the email, and the 5 that have the most right, the most points right, they're going to get a jersey. But we need a limited number amount, or I should say that differently. We need a lot more than 5 mock drafts, right? So if we can get 50 mock drafts at least submitted, I will give 1 jersey away for every 10 mock drafts that are submitted, to a max of 5 jerseys. So you got to submit your mock drafts to mailbag at rockdon.com. I'll do a video about it. I'll post it. I'll do as much as I can between now and Thursday to put it out there that we're going to do this. And then you on your social medias, take it and post it, because the more mock drafts we get submitted, the better. Right? The more mock drafts we get submitted, the better. And you only get to submit 1. So you got to put your name with it, right? You got to put your, I don't want just your handle. I need your name with your mock draft. And then the deadline is going to be Wednesday at midnight. That'll be the deadline. I'm submitting my final mock draft on Thursday, but I don't want people taking my picks. So deadline is Wednesday at midnight. And it's just the first round. It's just the first round. So all you do is you can do trades if you want. Or we could do 2 different ones, but I think that's going to get confusing. Like, I'm going to submit 3 different mock drafts this year. 1 with trades, 1 without trades, and then 1 position only. Like, for what each team is going to take position-wise in the first round. So just go to PFF, do your first round mock, select all teams. It's not hard. Here, I'll show you how to do it real quick. I'm sure all of you know how to do it anyway. And then obviously you're going to want to join us. I still got a jersey raffle I got to spin off. We lost power, and I was supposed to do it on Tuesday, but we didn't have any power, so I got to give this Isaac Tesla jersey away. I'll do that during the draft. We'll spin it up and give it away. And then I'm going to have other giveaways too. Like, we're going to give away some stuff during the draft. So if you join us for the draft, we're going to do giveaways during the draft. All right. When you go to pff.com or you go to PFF mock draft, it's very simple. Just select all. Make sure you select first round. None of this stuff down here matters because you're selecting every team. You start your draft, and then you just start picking your players, right? You just start picking whatever, whoever, wherever, whoever you feel is going to go. Or I'm just going to do one blindly here. I'm not even looking at the names. I'm just picking players. Oops. Oh my God, stop. Just draft the player. Oh my goodness. Okay, so when you're all done, you just go up here and you hit download image. You're just going to download it, and then you're going to take that and you're going to email it to me, and you're going to put your name with it. You can put your YouTube handle with it too. You can either put that in the subject box or in the body of the email. Upload it as a picture or drag it and drop it, you know, whatever you want to do. But send it to me if you want to compete for a jersey. That's how we're going to do it this year for some of them. Some of the other ones I'm just going to give away. Jerseys will take probably 6-8 weeks. We're going to try to wait to get numbers and all that good stuff for all the new players, and then whenever they're available. So it'll take a little bit of time, even though you're going to win a jersey. It'll take a little bit of time, especially if you want the new numbers, the new players. So anyway, with that, I yield back. I'm out of here. I have to get going. Have to get going. So mailbag at rockdown.com. Get it in Wednesday night by midnight if you want to compete for a jersey. All right. Y'all have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me this morning. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Pressured by